Hi, my name's Kathryn Backholer. I'm a professor of public health policy at Deakin University, where my work focuses on food policy and also harmful marketing practices as a key commercial determinant of health. So today I want to talk about the pervasive influence of unhealthy food marketing, particularly in the digital environment, on what we eat and why protecting children from that marketing has become it's such an urgent public health issue. So World Obesity Day's theme is 8 billion reasons to act on obesity. And I think it's especially relevant here because unhealthy food marketing reaches almost everyone every day, shaping what billions of people see, want, buy, and consume, not only in Australia, but right across the globe. So when we talk about diet and obesity, we know that the conversation often returns to individual behavior. So what people eat, how active they are, whether families make healthy choices. And of course, these things matter. People have to make their own decisions. But if I can send one message today, that is that these decisions are made inside powerful commercial systems that are designed to maximize profits and stakeholder or shareholder returns. So price promotions, outdoor advertising, supermarket product placements, social media feeds, delivery apps, they absolutely saturate daily life with all sorts of marketing and food marketing in particular. So at Deakin, we really study how children and families experience specifically unhealthy food marketing across everyday life with a particular focus on digital platforms. And what we see consistently is this dominance. So unhealthy products dominate promotions, they dominate checkout displays, they absolutely dominate billboards and children's online feeds or online environments. So in digital environments alone, we've spent a lot of our research there, and we show that for every day a child spends online, they see upwards of 20 junk food ads. That's for just a single day they spend online. Importantly, these ads are not just passive ads that they scroll past. They're interactive, so they might have buy now buttons or learn more buttons to encourage them to click through. They're embedded within games or social sharing prompts and influencer endorsements, which are designed to build these emotional connections with brands. Much of the marketing is personalized, so what you see and what I see for a given marketing campaign could be completely different. And it's invisible. It's on devices that are within pockets that, follow people around every day. And this means that parents can't see what's in a child's feed, and policymakers have no idea what the true problem really is for unhealthy food marketing, especially when we're talking online. And they also don't know what to do when it comes to regulating unhealthy food marketing online within this context. So we know that these exposures matter because they shape behaviour in predictable ways. And there's now more than a decade of research, a review by the World Health Organization that shows that repeated exposure to unhealthy food marketing increases children's preferences for products. It drives purchasing and consumption and normalizes unhealthy food products and diets. So we're not talking about just single marketing campaigns that influence single snack choices at a given point in time. These marketing campaigns that are integrated across media and settings, they're building habits, they're creating loyalty, and they're resetting the social norms about, what everyday eating should look like. And I think what's really important and interesting right now is what we're seeing with unhealthy food marketing. I think it's only the tip of an iceberg. So the same digital marketing infrastructure that drives social media is now being embedded into retail platforms and conversational AI systems. So these are the systems that people plan meals, they generate shopping lists, they highlight promotions and populate online baskets. So, for example, just very recently, OpenAI announced plans to introduce advertising into ChatGPT. So this is opening a whole new door for commercial influence by embedding marketing inside the tools that people are increasingly use and trust for everyday guidance. At the same time, we have major retailers that are investing in AI-driven shopping assistants that can personalize product suggestions or build shopping baskets for consumers before they've even looked at what's available. So I think what we're starting to see is this shifting food marketing landscape. And if advertising and promotions enter the systems that people rely on to organize everyday food purchases, marketing no longer is something that we, scroll past or walk past. It becomes part of that decision making process itself. And I think it's a real worry. I think it's the next frontier. And it makes the case for acting to protect children, young people from unhealthy food marketing even stronger. But unfortunately, in Australia, like many countries, we still rely really heavily on voluntary codes of conduct. So these are rules that are written, monitored, and enforced by the very companies that profit from these marketing practices. So there's a clear conflict of interest there. We know evidence from Australia and right around the world shows that these industry-led codes repeatedly fail to reduce children's exposure to unhealthy food marketing consistently, time and time again. There are governments that have acted decisively. So, for example, in Chile, unhealthy food marketing is prohibited to children under 14. And evidence shows that when these laws are in place, exposure falls, household purchasing becomes healthier, and you start to see a shift in social norms. So these policies have shown to be effective. More recently, we've got the UK, for example, that's introduced a ban on paid online unhealthy food advertising and restrictions on TV advertising before 10 p.m. just recently been implemented. And certainly here in Australia, South Australia, the first jurisdiction that banned unhealthy food marketing on state-owned assets in a comprehensive way right across the state. So these are really promising examples, but overall progress still remains slow. And why is that? Well, it's because we have a food industry, we have an advertising industry and a technology industry that is incredibly powerful and politically sophisticated. So I'll just walk you through an example of this in Australia. So we did a study where we examined what happened when back in 2019, the Queensland government proposed banning unhealthy food advertising on publicly owned assets. So what happened? Well, we saw that industry groups mobilised very quickly. They warned of economic harm, which was completely unsubstantiated. They emphasised this narrative constantly of personal responsibility. They formed coalitions, they managed information flows, and they engaged directly with policymakers. So through freedom of information, we saw there were emails to policymakers, organisation of meetings, this lobbying behind the scenes. In this case, the proposal was ultimately weakened and then completely abandoned. So we don't see this policy in place at all today. You can't even find the documents online anymore. So this is not at all unusual. This is one example in one jurisdiction, but we see this right across the world. And what it really reflects is how commercial actors with clear conflicts of interest are highly organised and skilled at shaping policy debates and then outcomes that are not at all in the interest of public health, but in the interests of big industry, of profits, of shareholder returns. So what would a serious system level response look like? Well, firstly, it's not about removing choice. It's not about telling people they can't eat certain products or they can't purchase certain products or they can't, feed their children certain things. It's about rebalancing the environment so that the healthy options are not constantly crowded out. So it means mandatory comprehensive restrictions on unhealthy food marketing across all media settings, especially digital platforms, but all media and settings, backed by independent monitoring and enforcement. In the digital world, it also means limiting the data that food and technology companies can collect about our children. And I think right upstream, it's about challenging the online ad models that rely on this behavioural profiling to drive consumption. So when we talk about food, health, and obesity, we face, there's essentially a choice we can make. We can keep placing the burden primarily on individuals. So we're asking families to navigate environments that are completely stacked up against them, or we can redesign those environments. And I would argue that food marketing has to sit at the centre of a food environment redesign or a food system redesign. children's health should never be the collateral damage of private profit or shareholder returns. So if there really are 8 billion reasons to act on obesity, then changing how food is marketed, especially in digital spaces, is one of the most important and powerful places to start.